All right. This is Charlie Boo with a quick, well, maybe not so quick, Line 6 Helix Native tutorial for the Audioslave song Cochise. If you look in the comments below, I will link to the playthrough performance so you can hear the whole song. All instruments, other than the drums, were recorded through the Native. That's bass, guitars, all the effects, and all the vocals were through the Helix Native. So I'm going to walk through. Obviously, I'll have Native open here. I'll go through each instrument in Studio One. I will explain the chain, the settings, play a little bit of it in the mix, a little bit of it out the mix, and move to the next instrument. It's going to take a little bit of time because of the amount of tracks on this and the effects, but I'll go as quick as I can, and as you can probably tell already, I talk pretty fast, so feel free to pause as necessary. So let's jump right in. We'll start with the bass, right? So we have the bass. Again, I think you're going to appreciate the simplicity of my settings. I wouldn't know an EQ shelf if it fell off the wall and hit me on the head. I'm very old school. I try to approach the Helix like I'm approaching a gig. Give me a good guitar, a good amp, a good cab, mic it up, and tweak from there. Those other things are very helpful, don't get me wrong. They can really help improve the sound, but you should be able to get 95% of what you need out of just basic settings and tweaking. So I'll show you how I did that here. So I'll start with the bass. Tim C. I played this through a Fender Standard bass with Fender Standard P bass with Steve Harris Seymour Duncan pickups. Just give you an idea of what kind of output I'm putting into it. I used one of the Helix presets, 16A to be exact, BAS:SV Beast Bright. So it's the SV Beast Bright, which is based on an Ampeg SVT Bright channel. I left the chain intact, just turned the distortion off, and I'll get to that in a second. So you have a volume pedal, which I didn't use. The Dynamics, which is the LA Studio Comp. It's a compressor. I left the settings as they are in the preset, 7.8, 6.2, 0.9, 100% mix, 0 dB. I skipped the T-Ma, went right to the amp and cab, and here's why I skipped the T-Ma. Tim C has a real fat, fuzzy tone kind of, so I just cranked the bass to 10. I mean, the drive to 10. When I did that, it really fatten the sound up to the point where it was almost overwhelming. So I sucked the bass down to 1. It's going to seem counterintuitive, but you'll hear it. There's plenty of bass there. The mids are 7.7, and then I dimed the treble, the channel volume, and the master. They're all dimed at 10. Sagged down to 0 to tighten it up a little bit. Again, I'm playing with my fingers. And then the rest of the settings are pretty straightforward here. 5.5, 7.4 in the bias, which is the way it was, and 5. Didn't touch the cab at all. 12-inch dynamic mic, 12 dynamic mic, 1 inch away, low cut 20 hertz, high cut 8 kilohertz. No early reflections and 0 on the level. So very simple, very straightforward. And again, these settings might seem a little off, but here it is in the mix. It really cuts through. And here it is soloed outside the mix. So plenty of bass, as you can hear, even though the bass is on 1. Now my first thought was, when I was getting too much bass, was to throw a compressor in there and mess with a 5-band or 10-band EQ, and not a compressor, an EQ pedal in there, and mess with the 5 or 10-band. And again, I go back to simplicity. Let's try extreme settings first. Take the bass all the way out, put it all the way up, and just go back and forth until I find something that works. And I'm real happy with that. Again, here it is. So that's the bass. Hope you dig it. Let me get that off. Let's go to the guitar. Now I use the same guitar setting for all the guitars. The same bass guitar setting. When I say bass, I mean bass, B-A-S-E, as in the same amp, the same cab, the same settings for every guitar part on this. All I changed were pickup selectors and split coil or the effects. So here it is. Again, another very complicated chain here. Tom Morello's a pretty simple dude. Believe it or not, he doesn't have a whole lot of effects in front of him. And he plugs into a 50-watt Marshall JCM 800 through a PV cab. So I just pulled up a 20 of the Brit 2204. Okay. As far as the cab goes, I almost always run dual cabs. And when I run dual cabs, it's not to get 2 different cabs. It's usually to get 2 different mics on it. I use a 57 dynamic and a 121 ribbon. Kind of gives you the best of both worlds. I had a happy accident here. I used a 412 greenback 25. I liked the way that sounded. I went to use another, and I switched to the greenback 20 by accident, and I just liked the way it sounded. I didn't do anything with low cuts or high cuts. I left it just the way our stock. All I did was just change the mics, and they're both an inch away. So a 57 and a 121 ribbon on a greenback 25 and a greenback 20. Back to the amp real quick. Drive is only on 3. Kiewit Tom Morello, a lot of people think he has a lot of gain. He does not use a lot of gain. His guitar quacks a little bit, so only 3 on the drive. Bass again at 1. Sounds odd, I know, but stay with me, you'll hear it. I sucked the mids to 0, and that's basically because I used an ES335 guitar, as you'll see in the video. It's got a lot of natural mids to it, so I sucked them out to give it more of a single coil tone. I used a split coil to give it more of a single coil sound, and I sucked the mids out, and I, again, dimed the treble, dimed the presence, dimed the channel volume, and I sucked all the sag out to tighten it up. This amp is very bass heavy on its own, so again, 1 on bass seems pretty odd, right? Reverb just a little bit. I used just stereo room reverb on 2.5, 11 milliseconds, 117, 3.7, 46% mix, 0 dB. All right, so real simple settings. Amp, cab, a little bit of reverb, and let's hear it in the mix. And here it is out of the mix. Guitar 1, solo. I mean, kind of stratty, right? Kind of has that neck strat sound to it a little bit. And I did that mostly just by tweaking these settings. I recorded it with the settings a little more near 5, and then I just ended up with the bass on 1, and it just worked. So, same thing for guitar 2. All I did with guitar 2 is it's the same guitar. I used a different single coil. I have a Seymour Duncan triple shot pickup selector in there, so I can use either the slug coil or the screw coil. So I used the screw on one, the slug on the other. Again, amp, just a Brit 2204, exact same settings. Cabs, greenback 25, greenback 20, exact same settings, and the exact same settings of decay. And all I did is guitar 1 is panned 50% left, and guitar 2 is panned 50% right. And again, here it is in the mix. And here it is soloed. So you put them together, and here's what the rhythm guitar sounds like throughout the whole song. There's only 2 guitars for the rhythm. So I was real happy with that. And it sits in the mix great. It cuts through, as you can hear in the playthrough. And that's it, man. Gives it a nice spatiality with just a little bit of reverb on there. So that is the guitars. Let's go to the lead guitar. For the solo, so I used the exact same amp settings. Again, we'll go to the same, you'll see here, exact same as the other guitars. The exact same cabs, greenback 25, greenback 20 with a 57 and a 121. I used the same reverb setting. Okay, all I added here was a little bit of flanger. I tried the Phase 90. This just sounded better for me for some reason. And a little bit of Bucket Brigade. Now, he uses a DD3 pedal live. I don't know what he uses in the studio. This just, again, worked better. So I put the rate of the flanger at 4.3, the range at 7.1, the color at 5.3, the spreads at 10, the mix is 50%, the level's -1 dB, and the headroom is 0. All right, the delay settings. The time is 238 milliseconds, feedback is 43%, noise is 2.8, mix 50%, level 0, headroom 0, trails are off. And again, the reverb settings are the same as the other guitars. So again, kept it simple. Let me get to the solo. Give me 1 second. There it is. And here it is in the mix. All right, and here it is out of the mix. Sorry this is taking so long, guys. I soloed that. not much there, right? Just you know, again, good tone. And then you add a couple effects here and there to fatten it up. So that is the lead guitar. Let's get to these sound effects real quick. I'm not going to be able to go through them as in depth as we like. Maybe I'll do a separate tutorial for them where I actually show myself playing the instrument, but because these are kind of tricky. It's not, these effects alone don't do it. It's the style that you play it. So I call this the helicopter sound in the beginning, and I'll play it first real quick, which is the, you know. All right, so what he does is he takes a pen, just like this one, and he taps his guitar strings over his pickup with a delay setting set to slapback. That's it, man. So I did that. Again, I used the exact same amp settings. That's on every guitar track. Same cab. I'm trying to reverb off because I used the delay differently here. So the delay set, here's the key. Key number 1 is the delay setting. Is 75 milliseconds. So it's a quick slapback. Feedback of 49%. The mix is 50%. The level is 0. There's no trails. Okay, so it's just a quick slapback. I didn't use any modulation or reverb. I tried both. Neither seemed to work as well as I liked. But here's the problem I had. Here's the secret sauce for this for me. Was when I did it, it sounded good, but it sounded a little muffled. And I said, you know, let me try a treble boost in front. So I pulled the Derange Master, drive at 5.5, bass at 7.0, treble at 0.5, level at 0, and it made a difference. I'm going to play this without the Deranged Master. So I'm going to turn that off real quick. Now listen to it. Right? I was pretty happy with that, right? The delay setting was right. It sounded a little bit like a helicopter, but it just didn't have the bite that he had. Now listen to it with the Deranged Master back on. Oh, man. I got super excited when that worked. All right, so I'm going to play it, and I'm going to turn it on and off. Ready? So here it is. It's on. Off. On. So if you're trying that sound, don't be afraid of doing that. That really helped cut everything through. So same guitar settings, slapback delay, and a Deranged Master up front. Let's get to the wind. The wind sound is that swirly sound that comes in after the guitars kick in a little bit. So I'll play a little bit of that. It's this part of the song. I'll cut like isolate that for you. All right, so I went back and forth between in the mix and out of the mix. Same guitar settings, all right? Again, same bass, just like I'm playing live. Don't change guitar settings. The reverb's the same. All right, so all I did was delay, which is the same delay settings I used on the lead. 238, 43%, 2.8 noise, 50%. So again, just a basic stock delay setting. The key for this was the mod and a pitch shifter I used before this that you can't see in this chain. So I won't go too in depth here because it's a little complicated. This rotary gave it some spatiality. So the rotary settings you see here, set to fast, slow is 2.4, fast speed 7.3, ramp times medium, drive 7.1, equal speaker blend, 100% mix, 5.7 dB, negative 5.7 dB level. All right, so that gave it a nice swirly sound. Without that, it still sounded okay, but that really helped. So that setting is kind of important to get it the way I had it. But what I did is, and you can't see it here because you can't use a pedal with Native. It's the biggest problem I have with it. So I put my Helix Stomp in front of it and just put a pitch shifter in, like a whammy pedal. And when the heel was all the way down, I had it set at negative 24, which is 2 full octaves down. And with the toe all the way down, it's set at 0. So it basically goes from 2 octaves down to standard E. Well, I'm half step down, but anyway. So what I did is I start just scratching the strings, like, just scratching the pick across the strings with it all the way down, all the way back, I mean. So it's 2 octaves low, and I just slowly rocked my toe forward for the entire length of that part until I finished with it all the way at the highest part, and I'm scratching the strings at the top to make it go. That description's about the best I can do for it. It's a trick he uses, but it really worked out well for the song. So let's go to the vocals. And if people want to hear more about that, maybe drop a comment. Maybe I can do a separate video just on that where I actually show what I'm doing with my foot. with the pitch shifter. All right, so vocals are all using the same effect as well. So what I did with the vocals, I kept it very simple. Again, I'm singing through an MXL V67 microphone, which always is a good cheap mic, get them for like $100, and they always sound good with like a cheap tube preamp in front of it, like an Art or something. But I went right into my Focusrite, came in here and put the Studio Tube preamp on. So I'm in the preamp, mic, Studio Tube pre, gains at 4.5, normal polarity, 150 hertz, low cut, and high cut was off. I put a little low cut on there. I do the same thing when I play live. Just, you don't need a lot of bass in your voice. When you can hear my voice now, I'm pretty bassy to begin with. So it helps me cut through to take a little bit of that low end out. The level's on 7. I changed the level for each track depending what I was doing, but this is it. So I put a compressor up front, LA Studio Comp, 7.9, 6.2, compress, emphasis on 0.9, mix 100%, level 0. Studio preamp we've already gone through. The EQ, I don't know if I did anything. Everything looks like it's a 0. I might have moved a little bit, but the EQ is on. If I moved this from the stock settings, it wasn't much. 0, 600 hertz, 0, plus 1 dB, maybe I changed that, and 0 on the level. Reverb, I used Hall, Stereo, Legacy Hall Reverb, 7 on the decay, 22 milliseconds pre-delay, 167 hertz, low cut, 4.3 hertz, high cut, mix is 32%. Then I threw some delay on there. I really tried to wetten the vocals up. I mean, it's amazing how they get eaten up in the track. So 800 milliseconds on the time, feedback's 35%. That was like when I kept playing with, and the mix was 15% when I kept playing with. 0 on the dB, scale 75%. So let me play some of the lead vocal in the, where's the vocals kick in here? Give me a second, here we go. This will be it here. All right, here it is in the mix. Here it is wet. Sounds pretty dry actually, doesn't it? But when I isolate it, you'll hear there's a lot of effect on there, solo. Well, I've been watching while you've been coughing, and I've been drinking life while you've been nauseous. All right, so that's the vocals. So that's it, man. The rest are all background vocals, and yeah, I got a lot of background vocals on here. The scream I did separately. So, but the same settings were used for everything. Maybe I just adjusted the volume a little bit in the mix, but no post-production on any of this stuff. So that's it. Man, we're going on like 18 minutes. I apologize for the length, but there's a lot going on in this song. I also apologize for kind of just glossing over the special effects part of this. If you want me to do a separate one, drop it in the notes. Maybe I'll do one for you. But those effects will get you close enough. Please listen to the video and like it, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more of these. I'll be doing more songs, and using Helix Native on all of it. So if you're a Helix person or user, hopefully you'll find this, my page to be a little helpful. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good day, and be safe out there.